It doesn't matter what plays you call if you don't have the personnel to run them. Lowe's Red Vest Associates can help you execute whatever home improvement project you've drawn up. On top of that, with the Lowe's app on in-store mode, it's easy to call your own number and find anything yourself. Or if you're really under pressure, order online before 2 p.m. and get it at home same day. Lowe's knows home improvement. Lowe's is an official partner of the NFL, same day valid on eligible in-stock items in select zip codes only, subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase, exclusion, and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same day delivery for details.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it.
Because you did it.
Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant
Pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world
Champions.
Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
With John Schmeelk and Matt Citak right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Sorry, I just recorded 2 other podcasts with different sponsors, and sometimes I can't keep them straight. Taking your calls at 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. You heard from me on the game yesterday. I had watched the game already and did all my stats and notes and everything, so I don't have much for you. We'll get Matt's take on the game. We have a little bit of news as well, and a whole lot else. Mr. Citak, rough sports weekend for you, my friend. Are you doing okay?
You know, I think I flew a little too close to the sun the week prior, or the 2 weeks prior.
On wings of pastrami?
I was on cloud 9 between Vandy football, the Mets, Giants beating the Seahawks. Everything was going great, and then it all has come crashing.
Well, the good news...
Vandy football has not. They're still ranked, but...
The good news, it's a new beginning today.
Yes.
As the new season of Nets basketball kicks off.
Yes, I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan growing up.
Formerly New Jersey.
10 minutes away from the Meadowlands, so I was a New Jersey Nets fan, now Brooklyn Nets fan. Looking forward to the 2025 NBA draft. How about that?
Well, you already psyched about Cam Thomas shooting 35 times a game this year?
No, but hey, if we end up with Cooper Flag, it'll all be worth it.
Yes, the...
Big if, but...
Yes, the god of the ping pong balls is a fickle master that one must pray to and serve, with no consistent reward. As a Knicks fan that suffered through 20 straight years of praying for ping pong balls, trust me, doesn't go well a lot of the time.
Oh, I know. But there's the 2 Rutgers guys that are also very good prospects.
Also, unless you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, in which case you seem to get the first, or the Spurs, where you get the first overall pick like every 5 years, because that's just how it goes. Anyway, again, you heard my spiel in the game. Giants fell to the Eagles 28-3, a demoralizing loss. Citak, I'll just leave it open to you, and then we'll get to your calls at 201-939-4513. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Where do I begin?
I realize I probably surprised you with that question. It's very off topic. You probably weren't very prepared for it.
All right. I'm going to start on the defensive side of the ball, which there was bad, and there was also a little bit of good. You know, I know after a game like Sunday, you don't want to focus, too much on the positives, but that doesn't mean you can't at least bring them up, because there were some things. But let's start with the bad on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, the Giants struggled to stop the run game. They could not stop the Eagles' rushing attack on Sunday. Saquon Barkley had one of the best games of his career. We knew he was going to come in motivated. There was no surprise there. Kenneth Gainwell even got into the action. Jalen Hurts got 2 touchdowns on the ground. The Giants' rushing stats are a little misleading on the season, because if you look at where they rank in now they've updated. Never mind. I was going to say yesterday their total rushing yards allowed on the ground had them ranked still like top 15, but I guess they hadn't registered this past week's stats yet, because now that is number 25 in the league.
And the other thing I'll add to that too, Matt, you had those 3 straight weeks of good rush defense. Now you look at it, the Cowboys are the 32nd ranked rushing team. The Seahawks didn't even try to run the ball in that game.
That is true.
And the Bengals don't want to run the ball either. They want to throw it. So you wonder if it was so much that they solved their problem or if it was just they played teams that didn't want to run the ball. I'll tell you what, we'll find out this week because the Steelers will pound you to death.
Yeah, and I will say, and I know, I think you mentioned this in your section of Cover 3, Saquon Barkley, his final stats, obviously they look great, but almost
they were great.
all, and they were great. They were, no doubt about it. Not almost all, but a very large chunk of his yards came on just 3 carries.
All but 41 yards came on 3 carries.
Yes, and obviously those 3 carries, they clearly count. You look at Derrick Henry's game last night, you don't just not count his humongous runs. They certainly count.
Especially when those 3 carries led directly to touchdowns on their drives.
But I will say just the other, I think it was 14 carries did go for 41 yards. So they weren't awful against the run and maybe as awful as the final stats might show. But it doesn't matter if you're not, bringing consistent play on a play-by-play basis every single play. Then it doesn't matter because you could, limit a team to 5 yards rushing. They bust out one long touchdown run that could end up costing you the game.
So in other words, Mrs. Lincoln enjoyed the orchestra at the play. The orchestra was great, but the rest of the play didn't go so
exactly. Well. So yeah, Jalen Hurts honestly didn't even have to throw the ball really. He
14
attempted 14 attempts, and frankly, the stats show that he was good on those 14 attempts. He was 10 of 14, 100, I think it was 19 yards, a touchdown, or 100-something yards, passer rating over 110. It was a rough game for the Giants defense. There's no doubt about it. They struggled to get off the field, which is a little crazy because when you look at it, they held the Eagles on 3rd down to, 1 of 14?
13. 13, yeah. They were 3 for 3 on 4th downs.
They were 3 for 3 on 4th downs, and I think 2 of those 4th down plays directly scored touchdowns. So that's obviously going to hurt your final stats. But 1 for 13 on 3rd down. You told me going into the game the Giants would hold the Eagles to 1 for 13 on 3rd down. I would have thought, all right, the Giants defense must have shut down the Eagles, and the Giants won this game.
And Jalen Hurts had 114 passing yards.
Yeah, so
you got to stop the run.
You got to stop the run. Yeah, and I will just say as one of the small positives, the pass rush continues to, I don't want to say dominate, but perform very well.
Oh, the 5 sacks on 21 dropbacks is dominant.
Yes.
It's a fair word. It's dominant.
5 sacks, I know, and I know pressures, we don't, sometimes is a trigger word. I know not as much for you as Dan Salomon upstairs, but PFF also had the Giants for 21 total pressures on 21 dropbacks.
That's pretty
That
good.
is a amazing rate. Dexter Lawrence, another 2 sacks, leads the league in sacks. What he's doing right now from the defensive tackle, the nose tackle position, is insane, and I don't know if we've seen anything like this. I mean, because Aaron Donald didn't always line up in the nose tackle spot, did he?
No, not at all. No, of
So
course
this
not.
is
No, no.
a level, again, it's 7 games, but this is a level of dominance from a nose tackle that the NFL has not seen in I don't know how long. So Dexter Lawrence continues to play out of his mind. Brian Burns and Azeez Ojulari each picked up a sack for the 2nd consecutive game. The pass rush is playing well, but again, it doesn't matter so much if the team doesn't really have to throw the ball because they're running with so much success. And I feel like as much as people sometimes want to, call Kayvon Thibodeau out for some of the, I don't want to say the weaknesses, but some of the areas in his game that aren't quite as...
How about inconsistencies?
Inconsistencies. The one thing he does is he helps set the edge and he plays really well against the run. And I think as great as Azeez Ojulari has been as a pass rusher, he doesn't bring the same consistency to the run defense.
Absolutely.
And the Giants are really feeling that so far. And then the rookies on defense continue, I think, to really excel. Tyler Nubin led the team in tackles again. Drew Phillips had 2 great tackles for loss. He continues to play some just great football out of the slot.
He also
position.
covered Devontae Smith, I thought, very well when he got matched up with him.
He did, yeah. I mean, Devontae Smith had 1 catch for -2 yards on the day. And even Elijah Chapman got in for, I think it was 4 pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. Didn't lead to any sacks, but still, you get enough pressures, eventually the sacks will come. So those are the small positives on the defensive side of the ball.
Did you find any on offense?
Moving over to the offense, it was a little bit tougher to come out with some positives. I mean, the passing game just could not get going. The run game really struggled. I mean, 119 total yards of offense. You're not going to win a football game like that. With 10 first downs and 119 total yards of offense, it's going to be tough to beat any team. So
no play longer than 14 yards. Second straight week now.
Yep.
They have not had a play longer than 15 yards.
And a matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense on deck, which is one of the best in the NFL. So, look, it's going to be.
But it's not at home.
You know what? This is going to be a great test, Pearson. You joke. The Giants 16 quarters at home, 1 touchdown. It's night and day what they've done on the road. So this will be a good test. It's like, all right, it's on the road. Ooh, but it's also in prime time. So it's like narratives colliding on Monday night against the Steelers.
Yeah, something's got to give. In terms of the O-line, I know it probably did not go as well as the coaching staff as anyone would have liked, putting Azudu in for Andrew Thomas at left tackle. As Brian Dable said last week, you just cannot replace Andrew Thomas. He's one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Losing him, he could be the most indispensable player on this team. Going into the season, you, me, Dan, during training camp on the sidelines would have these conversations. What player is it really going to be tough for the Giants to overcome if he gets hurt? And I feel like we all agreed it was Andrew Thomas. And so now they're trying to, patch things together and get by with the guys that they have. I know some people are calling for a change already from what we saw last week, but I don't want to move Jermaine Illuminor out of right tackle, at least for this week, because TJ Watt lines up across the right tackle pretty much exclusively.
Yeah, you hit it, man. I'm with you on
I
that.
want Jermaine Illuminor matched up against TJ Watt. I don't want Illuminor on the left side dealing with, I don't even know who their second edge rusher is.
Alex Highsmith, is he hurt?
I think he's hurt.
He might be hurt, but
I think he's still hurt.
Cam Hayward's going to be over there. He might not be at the edge, but he'll be out there.
Yeah, but still, TJ Watt is, defensive player of the year conversation. I want Illuminor matched up on him. So at least for one more week, I would like to, keep Illuminor on the right side.
And Azudu was a little bit better in the second half of that game.
He did get better.
But
he
I'm with
started
you.
off rough. There's no doubt about it. But he seemed to get a little more comfortable as the game went on. And in situations where it was clear the Giants were going to continue to pass the ball, and yet as the game went on, he got a little bit better. I'm not going to go ahead and say
no, it wasn't.
He was great or anything, but he got better as the game went on.
But I don't think anyone wants Evan Neal's first game in more than probably a calendar year. No, maybe a little less, maybe about 11 months, right? I think he played a game in November last year, Evan Neal, right? I think he did. So in about 11 months to be against TJ Watt.
No.
Who has the best get off maybe of any edge player in football. I was watching some tape with Banks today, and he is literally a step into his move before everyone else on both teams even out of their stances.
It's him and Nick Bosa and then everyone else in the NFL.
In terms of get off.
And that includes some of the best defensive players in the NFL. But
Michael Parsons is in that mix. But
those two are just, in terms of getting off the line of scrimmage, they're just on another level.
And for Evan Neal, whose lateral mobility has been an issue, I don't think that's where you want to get his first play. So, folks, I'm with you. And again, there's reports say that the Giants had DJ Humphries in here, an offensive tackle. The Giants have not confirmed or talked about that at all. He also is coming off an ACL tear that he suffered last December 31st. And I've tried to look around to see when he had his surgery. That hasn't been publicized. So whether he's even ready to play or if the Giants are going to sign him at all, we don't have the answer to that. So
yeah, and a couple of days ago, the Giants signed Chris Hubbard from the 49ers practice squad. He's been on the team now for it's just a couple of days, but obviously he's a little more familiar with the offense and everything now than he was when he first got here on the 18th. I'm assuming they want to continue to get him, acclimated to the offense, the playbook, everything before they'd even consider using him, unless it comes into a situation where, someone gets hurt and they need to put him in. But he's still obviously very raw in terms of being around this building, so probably needs a little bit more time. Yeah, the roster is what it is at this point in terms of the offensive line. Last year I think was first of all, last year was just a revolving door of injuries on the offensive line, not something the Giants want to deal with again. And I think last year's situation with signing Justin Pugh right straight off the couch, that is more of, I feel like, an anomaly sort of move than something that, Giants fans should be expecting every year with there's an injury. Like, obviously there's a support about Humphreys. He's not necessarily straight off the couch because he's still recovering from an injury. But yeah, there's no like guys out there that they can go out and sign to add to the mix really on the offensive line. Like, it kind of is what it is at this point.
For better or worse. And the Giants will have to figure that out coming up next week. And just in terms of pressure rate, I have not done my Steelers scout yet. I'm going to start working on that this afternoon. Matt and I will talk about it a lot on our Thursday show this week. But just looking very quickly at their pressure rate for the season. Is this offense? This is defense. This is correct. So the Steelers right now are 22nd in the league at 32% in terms of pressure rate. And based on a couple people I was talking to around the building today that have watched the Steelers, they do not blitz a lot. So they do that mostly with a four-man rush. Yet they're 27th in blitz rate, just 26%. So the other stat, I'm not sure if you saw it from Next Gen. I'm sure you did because I know you look at that stuff. And it's funny, I had done it on my own watching the tape. Then I saw it in Next Gen. I'm like, oh, how about that? The Eagles did not blitz more than 4 guys once in the game on Sunday. So that's where the protection was.
Sacked Daniel
8 times. Well, Daniel and Locke combined.
Yeah.
8 times. So.
From hobby farmers to weekend gardeners and everyone in between, Tractor Supply trusts 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to make shopping more personal. Together, we're connecting over 2,200 stores with 5G business internet and powering AI so team members can match shoppers with products faster.
You're all set.
This is enriching customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Not great, Bob.
No.
201-939-4513, hashtag Giants Chat. Go check out the Giants Huddle podcast coming up in soon. It's not up there yet, but probably by this afternoon. We're going to have interviews that me and Paul did with Hakeem Nicks and Jason Pierre-Paul. If you need a little break about talking about what happened against the Eagles on Sunday. It's a really fun talk to talk to both those guys about, what they've been up to, their time with the Giants, kind of a look back a little bit. We don't hear from Jason Pierre-Paul a lot, so it was fun to talk to him and get him on a podcast along with Hakeem Nicks. We've had on before, but it was really good to talk to JPP. We talk about that 2011 Super Bowl championship team. Go check that out, Giants.com/podcast, Giants mobile app, or just search for it on your favorite podcast platform.
I meant to bring this up before since you mentioned Next Gen stats.
Yep.
Just real quick, going back to Dexter's dominance this year. I'm sure you saw this one. Dexter Lawrence has been double teamed on 63.3% of his pass rushes this season, which is the highest rate that any player has faced since at least 2018.
And that's why when they first started tracking it, right?
Yeah. And he leads the NFL in sacks with 9, despite the highest that anyone's been double teamed in at least 6 years.
I think the next highest percentage this year is like 50.
Yeah, it's something like that. And, the Eagles, we discussed last week, they have a pretty good offensive line. Even with Jordan Mailata out, they still have some very talented players there. Dexter Lawrence had, 4 pressures against center Cam Jurgens and 3 against guard Landon Dickerson. And for
2 good linemen.
2 good linemen, and for each of those linemen, it was the highest pressure rate they allowed in a game this season to a pass rusher.
That's why Dexter Lawrence, I would early favorite defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
I think he's the most dominant defensive player in football. Now it's going to be tough for him to keep the sack rate up, and if he finishes with like 11 and TJ Watt finishes with like 18, Dex isn't going to get it. Like, he's just not. That's the way it goes with the sack numbers, especially if the Giants aren't winning a lot of games. It shouldn't, but that gets factors into people's votes too from time to time. But hopefully Dexter can keep this up and he gets some national recognition.
At the very least, he is on pace to finally get that first team All-Pro honor.
Yeah.
Because the last 2 years, second team because of Aaron Donald and Chris Jones, which obviously 2 future Hall of Famers. Dexter could have arguably been in the mix last year for first team instead of second team, but is on his way this year.
Leads the league in sacks, career high already for him with 9. So
it's crazy what he's
really
doing.
Good early season for Dexter. It's a shame it couldn't come with more victories. Donnie in Queens, he will lead us off today. Hey, Donnie. Donnie going once. Donnie going twice. You got broadcast poked in there on the white box there, Pearson? Donnie going 3 times. All right, we'll try to get Donnie back on with us here in a little bit. 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Don't forget, folks, you could take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round. Not just on game days, memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit Giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. The Giants' official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. As we try to get the phones going here, your thoughts on weekend of football? I have not had a chance, aside from watching a couple highlights, to see any of that Vikings-Lions game. It looks like it was a phenomenal game. Both quarterbacks played extremely well. How about this one for you? Who's your league MVP right now? Is it? For me, it's Jared Goff. I know a lot of people will say Lamar, but I think it's Jared Goff.
I was legitimately going to say it's between Lamar and Jared Goff, in my opinion. I mean, what Jared Goff is doing from an efficiency standpoint is truly insane. And I know Lamar, what he's been doing, it's sort of like we're used to this, but that doesn't make it what he's doing any less like spectacular.
Correct.
I mean, did you watch the Ravens game last night?
Yes, I did watch a lot of it.
5 touchdown passes, and still basically doing whatever he wanted on the ground. It's crazy. So for right now, I would give the slight edge to Lamar, but Goff would be a very close second, and it makes no sense to me. I love Patrick Mahomes. I think overall he's the best all-around quarterback in the NFL, but the fact that he is the favorite to be MVP right now when he has more interceptions than touchdown passes does not make sense to me. And I get that they're 6-0.
Yeah.
I get that. I get the dynasty. Nothing against Mahomes.
No,
He's an
Mahomes is
amazing
not.
player.
He's not in the MVP conversation.
But he does not deserve to be in the MVP conversation right now, and yet he is still the favorite.
Yeah, which is crazy to me.
According to the odds, which
All right,
makes no sense.
give me your. I gotta look at the phones here real quick. Give me your breakdown on what you think the NFC is going to break down to, and who are your favorites coming out of the conference right now.
Ooh, okay. I thought that the 49ers were, just easily going to cruise to the 1 seed. Clearly, that is not the case. So let me just pull up the standings here. I think there's a legitimate chance that we get at least three teams in the playoffs from the NFC North. The Lions, I think, are going to end up with the 1 seed. They are playing the best football in the NFL of any team right now. I know the Vikings just lost to the Lions. I still am very confident in the Vikings. I think they are going to, I guess if Lions are taking the division, Vikings I feel like are going to get the first wild card spot. And then I think the Packers are going to make it too. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears somehow find a way to sneak in. It's going to be tough because that division hasn't really started playing each other yet. And once they do, they're going to start losing. It's just the way it is. But I think Lions, Vikings, Packers all make it out of the NFC North. In the NFC South, I think the Falcons will end up winning the division now that Chris Godwin is out for the year. Mike Evans looks like he could be out at least for some time.
Yeah, that looked like a bad pulled hamstring. I would not expect him for at least a month.
He is a very tough guy, and the writhing on the ground, screaming in pain, that's for Mike Evans to be doing that, then you know that is probably a serious hamstring injury. So I hope he comes back soon, but Sterling Shepard slotting into the starting lineup now. But yeah, I still think the Falcons are going to take the division. NFC East, did not think that we'd be having this conversation of who might win it between, potentially the Eagles and the Commanders.
Yeah, the Eagles, they still didn't impress me that much this week, to be honest with you.
They didn't. We knew they can run the ball. That's been consistent throughout the season that they're able to run the ball, but
their defense did play well. I will tip my cap to their defense.
The defense did play well, but they were facing a Giants team in their first game without their best offensive lineman.
True.
We'll see. I guess I still think the Eagles are going to win the division, but I don't feel confident saying that.
No, I'm a coin toss right now between the Eagles and the Commanders.
And then in terms of the NFC West,
that's a tough one too, man.
I feel like the 49ers will end up finding a way to win the division.
I think McCaffrey, they're going to have one more game without McCaffrey.
Yeah, they have one more game, then their bye week.
And then he's supposed to come back.
That's the report that he'll be back in week 10. he's obviously will provide a humongous boost and will help make up some of the losses they have in the passing game between Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. We don't know how long he'll be out. So I still think the 49ers will win the division, but I do think the Seahawks and even the Cardinals, I think they're going to keep the 49ers on their toes all season, and it's going to be a lot closer than anyone thought heading into the season.
Yeah, the door's wide open in that division and the NFC East to see who comes out with a victory. All right, I think we got the phones squared away. I know, Diana, you were on hold. I'm sorry we lost you. If you're listening, call right back. We'll get you up after Donnie if we can, but Donnie in Queens will lead us off. Donnie, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys, how are you? Hope you can hear me.
Now we got you loud and clear, Donnie. What's going on? It was a simple matter of unplugging something and plugging it back in, which is always the fail-safe electronic solution to most things.
It does work, though. Hey, so, losing is one thing. One thing I cannot tolerate as a fan and as a season ticket holder is lack of effort, guys moping, poor body language on the field, particularly young players. I don't know if you talked about it already, but Deonte Banks, his effort level this year, this is now the third game I've noticed it. There was the play in Dallas, which was heavily noticed. There was a play around the goal line against the Bengals where he didn't even bother to chip in on a tackle. And he did it again this week, multiple plays where he's not even bothering to stick his nose in and try to make a play. And then, the one where he just flat out let Hurts run by him.
Which is odd, by the way, because he's a physical player that's never been shy about tackling before, which is why it's so strange to me.
Yeah, so that needs to be addressed. In my opinion, benching is in order in the short term because they've spoken to him about it, and it's not getting better. So look,
well, Donnie, it's fairly obvious. Like on the play with Hurts, like after the play's over, you see Donnie.
Oh yeah.
You see Jerome Henderson run over with his arms stretched out, like, dude, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
And Brian Dable touched on this in his press conference in a Zoom yesterday with the media. And look, we all know Brian Dable, how he deals with the media.
He's not going to air dirty laundry.
He's never going to throw a player under the bus. He's never going to call a player out to the media. So, he was asked about, that exact play, and he, surprise, surprise, did not throw Deonte Banks under the bus, but he did say, look, we discussed this, we dealt with it in-house. There's no way that they did not speak to Deonte Banks about it, and Deonte Banks knows, even said after the game that he didn't give good effort on that play and, sort of disappointed in himself. So it has been addressed.
We'll have to see what it looks like.
We'll see what it looks like, exactly.
It should look like him starting the game on the bench in the first quarter against Pittsburgh. That's how it should look.
Hey, look, Donnie, and honestly, if that's the decision that they make, I totally get why they would do that.
Yeah. Look, guys are going to drop passes. Guys are going to make mental mistakes. They're going to have trouble. That stuff happens. Effort cannot be conditional based on score and record and how you're feeling in the moment. The unacceptable behavior should have consequences. And, if I were Dexter Lawrence, I'd also have something to say to Malik Neighbors, who I know everybody fancies as a superstar already 3 games into his career. But, he wants to tell the media after the game while he's pouting and his body language. If you want to go look at his body language in the second half, the way he ran routes. It was piss poor. And then he wants to tell everybody, well, I was open in the second half.
Well, no, now, Donnie, I will say this. If you listen, and we played his full post-game interview on the radio, so I heard the questions and his answers, and he did multiple times say he was open, but it was in response to questions asking, did the Eagles do anything different to kind of take you out of the game that you weren't expecting? And I think my impression of the way he was answering the question was that, no, I got open. They didn't do anything to take me out of the game. Now, he also mentioned in his first answer at that press conference that, look, we have to protect the quarterback to give him a chance to get me the ball. That was a part of one of his answers too. So I understand why some people maybe just heard snippets or heard individual quotes would think it was like, oh, I was open, I wasn't getting the ball, that's why we lost. That wasn't what he was saying. It was more, look, they didn't do anything necessarily with the way they played to me to take me out of the game. It was the circumstances of the game that did that.
I heard the entire quote. And not only did I take it as him throwing the offensive line under the bus and the quarterback, it was absolving himself of blame. And to me, that's an insecure. It's a lot of what we saw out of Odell. Insecurity that he had to make his own. Well, hey, I was open. I was open.
Now, see, Donnie, I'm going to disagree with you. Like my impression of his answer was not. I did not get the sense from any of his answers that he was throwing the quarterback under the bus.
No,
I did not.
was standing I was standing 4 feet away from him, and when he was talking to the media in the locker room, and that was not the impression I got whatsoever.
I mean, I don't think he's throwing the offensive line under the bus, Donnie. I think that was his way of trying to absolve the quarterback of blame, to say, look, I'm not blaming the quarterback. It's not his fault. If you get sacked 8 times, it's hard to get the ball to your wide receivers.
So
yeah,
he's blaming someone, right?
But
He's also
saying
blaming
the quarterback needs better protection after a game in which the quarterback's got sacked 8 times is sort of like a given.
And Donnie, I agree. Ideally, would you rather say, look, I need to do something better. I need to take my step. He's a young guy. He'll learn. He'll figure that out.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Not every young player does learn and figure that out. And there's already starting to be slow things starting to trickle out that are concerning me about him. And, I don't know if you did watch the game or not, but watch the way he ran routes in the second half. It was also unacceptable and piss poor.
I also wonder, Donnie, honestly, and again, this isn't making excuses. Remember, he had not really run for 2 straight weeks, so I wonder once he got to the second half and he basically played every snap until the end of the fourth quarter, I wonder if there was some fatigue that was a factor in that second half too.
Then sit his ass down too, because I'm tired of driving out to the stadium, putting my time and effort into it, and not getting it back from the entire roster.
No, I get it.
All the players. Dexter Lawrence, that guy could play an era of Giants football. When Tom Coughlin got hired, right, one of his big mission statements was what? Restore Giants pride. Well, Giants pride is dead. The fans don't care anymore. You go to the game, everyone expects to lose. The players on the field, it's like they get down 7-0, they expect to lose. And if they're going to continue to coddle players like Odell Beckham was coddled for a long time, if they're going to coddle Malik Neighbors moving forward, they're going to let Deontay Banks get away with the crap he put on the field, this losing and garbage will continue until somebody stops it. And that's about all I got for you today.
All right, Donnie. Appreciate the call. You guys are unhappy. We get it. I get it. Look, I get it. If you're a season ticket holder and you've been to those 4 home games this year, I'd be mad too.
Yeah.
I get it. 201.
No one's happy about it.
No one's happy about it. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phones in just a second here. Oh, Diana in Myrtle Beach rejoined us. And let's get to Diana. Pearson's still screening her, and I went a little bit too early. Now let's go to Diana in Myrtle Beach. She joins us right now on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hi, Diana.
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Thank you for calling back. What do you got for us?
Oh, you're welcome. I just wanted to talk about Daniel Jones. I call in from time to time, and yesterday I was a little spurred with anger to call in because I guess I just get so sick and tired of people laying everything at the feet of Daniel Jones. When you have receivers dropping passes, and I believe we have the second most drops in the league, that can't be laid at his feet. When you have a defense letting Saquon Barkley run all over the field, that can't be laid at his feet. When you have an offensive line, by the time he gets back to his 3-step drop, is mugged, that can't be laid at his feet. I mean, you look at people like, say, the other night, Monday night, Pickett catching balls for Russell Wilson. Did you see some of the catches he was making?
Unbelievable contested catches.
Good.
Yep.
Right, they're all contested catches. So I wonder what it's going to take for people to lay off Daniel Jones a little bit and start looking that everything cannot be his fault.
And look, everything is not his fault, Diana. I totally get where you're coming from on this. I'm with you. But he's also the most important player on the field on offense. So when the offense has failures, and this is not just for Daniel, this is for all quarterbacks around the NFL. If an offense doesn't score points, the first player every fan base is going to point to is going to be the quarterback. When the Dallas Cowboys struggle, they point at Dak Prescott. When Jalen Hurts struggles, Eagle fans point at Jalen Hurts. When the Rams failed in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, they eventually traded Jared Goff out of town because they said, okay, well, maybe we need to be better at the quarterback position. Even when Matthew Stafford, the other side of that trade, when he was with Detroit and Detroit was terrible, people blame Matthew Stafford. Then all of a sudden, he shows up to another team, he ends up being really good. So that's just the way it works. The quarterback always gets too much of the blame and always gets too much of the credit.
The only quarterback that seems to be absolved of that is Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and having all those Super Bowls will earn that.
Yeah.
Right. I totally get that, but I feel like Daniel Jones's job is on the line. And I wish the coach would even come out with just a little bit more, I don't know, just a little bit more, I guess, confidence in letting people know that there are other things happening. When you want to stand up there and say, oh, we got to look at the quarterback, but you're not willing to stand up there really and say, hey, our offensive line, because you can't have Thomas out, one person out on your offensive line, and then look at the struggles that we had last week. That's just totally inexcusable to me.
No, look, Dan, and I will say this though,
Daniel Jones.
Brian Dable has been pretty unequivocal in his support for DJ since, even with all the stuff with Hard Knocks and, talk about trading up for a quarterback and everything. Every time he's been asked about Daniel Jones, he said he's my starting quarterback again and again and again. He has been very clear about that.
And he even said yesterday when, again, was asked, is Daniel Jones your starting quarterback? And he said yes.
Yeah, read the quote.
And then they basically said, well, why did you decide that he's still the quarterback? This is Brian Dable's exact words. I think he gives us the best chance, number one. I thought there were a lot of plays that he did exactly what he needed to do. And then look, there were some plays where it wasn't just on Daniel. It was a collection of things. It wasn't just one person, protection, or a route. It was a collective deal. And we'll sit here and we'll watch the tape and we'll do everything we can do to be better this week. So Brian Dable's not putting the blame on Daniel. He's saying this is a team effort.
Well, we have so many callers that do, so I wanted to be one of the ones that stood up for Daniel Jones and said, hey, we got to look around because it is a team game.
I appreciate it. No, Dan, a great call. Thank you very much. And always good to hear from you. You're right. You don't call in a lot. When you do, it's always a very insightful call. And look, football is the ultimate team sport, but there's a reason the quarterback's also the highest paid player for every team, for the guys that have gotten on the second contracts generally, if they're going to be your highest paid player, because they had the ball in their hands every play. And that's where the finger is going to point, and I get that too. But it's not all his fault either. Like, it's a team game. I think what we always do on this show, I think to the point where it annoys people, we try to talk about the situation around the quarterbacks. I mean, just look, if there was ever any more evidence you needed than this year that it pays off to be patient with some of these quarterbacks, look at Sam Darnold, look at Baker Mayfield, look at Geno Smith. Three guys that
Jared
were
Goff?
left for dead. Yeah, he was left for dead once. The other three guys were left for dead multiple times from different teams. And they figured it out with a better situation. That might not ever happen with DJ. I hope it does. He's a great guy. I think he has the talent inside of him to do it. Arm strength, mobility, all that stuff. I love him to death. He's such a good dude. We'll have to wait and see. But look, that's just the way the NFL goes, man. People point fingers at the quarterback right or wrong, depending on the game you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as Diana mentioned, like, the Giants are among the league leaders in drop passes. The offensive line, especially with Andrew Thomas now, has not played up to the standard that I know they expect themselves to play at. It is not all on Daniel Jones.
I had a bigger problem with the performance after the Bengals game than after the Eagles game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Now, I don't want to speak for all fans, and I have made it very clear that I don't agree with what I'm about to say. But I feel like a lot of the fan sentiment around, I guess wanting to bench Daniel Jones at this point is a lot of it is centered around, the now very talked about injury clause in his contract. Now it's only week 8, so I think it's kind of crazy to be talking about that and having that be a legitimate reason to consider benching him at this point.
Yeah, right now
the Giants are still trying to win games.
That's their only concern.
They're trying
right
to make
Correct.
a playoff push. And as I've said, I don't even know how many times going all the way back to May, Daniel Jones is the best quarterback on this roster at the moment.
I mean,
it is not even close.
Did it look any better when Drew Lock came in?
No. And
that was against Eagles backups, by the way.
Yeah. So Diana, I think that is where at least some fans are coming from when they talk about their frustration with Daniel and wanting him to, move him to the bench. Again, I don't agree with that at all. I think the Giants are still only a couple of games out of the playoffs, and all you need is for things to start clicking. The offensive line, this new offensive line now, to get a little chemistry and start playing as a unit, and the Giants can start winning games and get back into the playoff hunt.
And I always say this on the show, and this is my experience watching, whether it's the Yankees or the Knicks over the years, whatever sport you want to talk about. Fans always want to have and understandably so, the easy silver bullet solution that the one thing you change will fix everything. That's why people always want to fire the coach, because they think if you fire the coach, you get a new guy in here, it can be an easy fix. All right, that doesn't work. All right, change the quarterback. Boom. Get a new quarterback, all your problems are going to be solved. 99% of the time, it doesn't work that way.
Yep.
It's the ultimate team sport. This isn't the NBA where you can add, LeBron James to your team and all of a sudden you're become a really good basketball team. It doesn't work that way in the NFL. So it's just something to keep in mind. And again, folks, there's plenty to criticize with Daniel Jones in the offense. We're not saying there's not. We're just talking about context in this particular situation.
From the Delta Sky Club
Welcome back, Miss Klein.
to the Jet Bridge, Delta Airlines relies on 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to power operations and serve customers faster. Together, we're putting 5G into the hands of ground staff so they can better assist on-the-go travelers with real-time information throughout the airport. This is elevating customer experience. This is Delta Airlines with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Brandon in New Jersey is up next. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, guys. So I missed most of the show trying to call in, so if I repeat some things, I apologize.
That's okay. The floor is yours, my man. What do you got?
All right, so the thing I was thinking about, I was watching Russell Wilson play, and it finally clicked on me, because I've been making fun of Russell Wilson in that rainbow ball for years now.
Why would you make fun of the rainbow ball? Is like his best deal, man. He throws one of the best deep balls in the sport.
I know, it's just goofy looking. When you're talking about a professional, why is that so high in the air, bro? Like,
because do you know why? Because it gives your wide receiver the best chance to make the play. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brandon.
I was watching him, and it finally clicked. I know what. Before I've called years ago about I thought he had poor pre-snap, poor post-snap reads. I think Daboll does a really good job calling conflict plays, so he doesn't have a lot to read in the first place. So now what's wrong with Daniel Jones' game if that's not your biggest thing? And it finally occurred. It's touch and placement. Those are the two things that's desperately missing from his pass game. So we continue to have, because it's the one thing I don't like is when people try to put a problem as its own isolated incident. When I know a guy that was being drafted in the first round, and they were coming out saying, if he had better receivers, and it was years later still saying the same thing, it can't be everybody around you, bro. Like, at some point, all right, but what's wrong, though? Let's not just be, against the guy. Like, what's wrong? Okay, your placement and your touches. And it finally occurred. When you watch Daniel Jones throw the ball, those are missiles everywhere. You know what you've never seen? You know that throw to Akeem Nixon, was that the Super Bowl? That thing that barely just teardropped right in the bucket? We've never seen him throw a pass like that. He doesn't have. So how do you fix that? On third down, stop putting Wandale in. Put Hodgins on the field. That's what you do to fix this, because he needs bigger targets. If you watch how he's missing Wandale, a lot of the time, he's like missing him by like a foot, and it's a bullet away from Wandale. So he's got to leaving his feet constantly, because it's just a little bit, And the idea of a quarterback is, as long as I get it in your area, you're the receiver, you should catch it. But truthfully, receivers will tell you, if a quarterback has good touch, like Russell Wilson in the stupid rainbow, if a quarterback has good touch, receivers much rather that than you throwing bullets at them 5 yards away. So if Daniel Jones can work on, spend this next week working on his touch and really just getting the ball out, because you see when he hit Slayton on that cross, it had touch, it had a little air under it, but for the most part still a bullet. If he can get his touch better, we can win some games. And then on third down, stop putting Wandale on. I know he creates the most separation, but Daniel Jones, when he's got to throw down the ball down the field, get him bigger targets. He didn't start getting good the year we made it to playoffs till Hodgins got on the field. It wasn't because Hodgins was an amazing receiver. It was just somebody he could hit. It's a big target. So on third down, I think that's the one thing we could do right now. We don't have to sit here and complain every day. We know what it is. I'm not one of these fans that, put Drew Lock in. I still want to word with the guy at player personnel that got Drew Lock on his field, and Logan Thomas and Jalen Mills. I still want to word with that person. But it's not that. We're not going to swap Daniel Jones. He's going to play. It is what it is. He's the best quarterback. I don't want to hear nobody say anything about DeVito. Please stop. All right? He's the best it is. So just work with what you got. And what you have is a guy that has poor placement, poor touch. So give him bigger targets, period.
No, Brandon, good call. And I think at points this year, and the frustrating thing, I think in years past, those have not necessarily been huge weaknesses for him, but I think this year, some of the ball placement and the touch on the deep balls has been something that I think has cropped up more often than it has in the past. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, no, that is. I do just want to note that Hodgins is not currently on the active roster. He is on the practice squad.
He was not active for the game last week, correct?
No,
he was active for Cincinnati, but he was not active for Philadelphia.
I believe he's
correct?
only been elevated once, but so he can be elevated 2 more times before they'd have to sign him to the active roster. But
you also have Bryce Ward-Wheaton. He's a bigger target too. If you want to, he's a bigger guy, obviously.
Yeah, but I just wanted to point that out about Hodgins. I will say, like, I know Wan'Dale has had some issues with drops. There's no doubt about it, but Wan'Dale is very good at creating separation from the closest defender. Like, he gets open. It doesn't always lead to receptions, as we've seen, but I mean, I want Wan'Dale on the field. He's one of the best wide receivers the Giants have on this team. I would say Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale, and Darius Slayton, there's a reason why they are the top 3 receivers that play the most. They are the most talented guys, and I know Wan'Dale has had drops, and those are, that's inexcusable. You need to work on that and get better. That has been an issue that has plagued the Giants' offense this season, has been drops. But you still want your best guys on the field, and Wan'Dale Robinson is one of the best receivers on this team. So I want him on the field in every third down passing situation that the Giants have.
Yeah, gotta execute better though in those situations.
For
You're
sure.
right. They've been way too many of third down plays where he's been targeted. And either he can't come up with it, or there was the first third down of the game where he went to the flat and Daniel airmailed the ball to him, right, on that little flat throw. Of course, he got walloped again as soon as he threw the ball on that play. But again, a pass he should have completed. So look, I don't think there's an easy answer to the issues. If there was, I think Brian Daboll would have made the changes necessary. And obviously, he knows. I think we all agree that he knows much more about offensive football than anyone talking right now or calling into the show. So if there was one easy solution here, I think they would have obviously flicked the switch there and made the problem. But, to generalize it, I think more people just have to, frankly, make more plays and play a little bit better. It's just way too inconsistent down to down, crucial mistakes in critical situations. And guys, just again, you're not going to win many games when your longest play of the game is either 15 yards last week or 14 yards this week, and the other team has 4 plays of 38 yards or more. That puts you in such a deficit that it's very, very difficult to make that up as you move forward here.
Yeah. I got nothing to add. Yeah.
201-939-4513, 201-939-4513, hashtag Giants Chat on Twitter. If you want to get in touch with us that way, you certainly can. Giants go to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers on Monday Night Football. So we get the extra day this week getting ready for that game. And, we were worried about Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns playing last week. They ended up playing. I mean, Dexter Lawrence.
As they said they would.
Yeah, exactly. And both guys ended up having fewer snaps than usual because once the game got out of hand in the fourth quarter, they pulled both out of the game. And in fact, and you saw when Dexter wasn't in the game in that, I think it was the first drive of the fourth quarter for Philadelphia, they just ran the ball right down the Giants' throats. And poor Jordan Riley was getting double-teamed and just getting moved.
Yeah.
And it just shows you the difference.
But when they were on the field, they look like their normal selves.
Yeah.
Dexter and Brian Burns. I mean, I think the
Correct.
trio of Dexter, Brian Burns, and Azeez Ojulari combined for, I want to say, like 13 of the Giants' 21 total pressures, which is sort of similar to the production we were seeing when it was Kayvon instead of Azeez. So in terms of the pass rush, again, as I spoke about earlier, those 3 are really, leading the charge and performing well in that regard.
Yeah, it's been fine.
But it takes more than just a good pass rush to have a good defense. You need to have a balanced defense, which includes stopping the run, and that has been an issue at times this season.
DJ in Virginia is up next. Hi, DJ.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's going on?
Can y'all hear me pretty good?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Here.
I got you. I got you, man. What do you got?
Hey, so I appreciate you guys creating this platform for guys to vent. I just needed to vent for a little bit.
Go ahead, man.
All right, so I understand the Giants. I'm just trying to figure out what's the direction of the team because, I watch a lot of the talk shows, the sports shows that talk about how the Giants messed up the whole Saquon situation and how Joe Shane, kind of messed that up. And I'm just trying to figure out what's the direction of the team because, when I look at it, the way you gauge the team is kind of like you look at how the team does in the division, and then you kind of look and see how they do against good teams, and then you see, you know, how they do at that point. But it seems like we're struggling against Dallas, we're struggling against the Eagles, and now with Washington kind of coming up, it seems like we're behind the 8-ball. You know what I mean? And I'm a little frustrated. You know what I mean? Because okay, the Saquon thing, I understand them moving off of Saquon. The thing that I don't get though is like, if you're going to move off of a guy, like, why is it we didn't get something for him? You know what I mean? Like, why not? If that was what he was planning to do, why not at least get something for him? Why not get something for him? Why not get something for McKinney? Why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not plan ahead? If that was the plan that they were going to do.
Well, DJ, I could tell you the trade return for Saquon at the deadline last year, with the year he was having and him being on an expiring contract, it would have been a day 3 pick, if that.
A day 3 pick.
Yeah, probably.
Well, okay, so I understand that, but then at least you would have determined somewhat where he would have went. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you would have for the remainder of the year. There's no guarantee when he hits free agency in the spring, he doesn't just go back to the Eagles anyway.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess if you're looking at a day 3 pick, maybe. But if the team that's trading for him gives up, let's say, a 4th round pick, they're more than likely going to try to re-sign him. You're not going to give up a 4th round and just let the guy walk. You know what I mean?
I would say it depends on the team and what their salary cap situation is.
Right. But if you're trying to, let's say, control the direction that he goes, you're more than likely going to try to push him to, let's say, the AFC, because that's what a lot of teams did when you would trade a quarterback or you trade a guy, you try to trade him outside of your conference so that, you know, you don't have to see the guy again. You know what I mean?
Well, DJ, I got to be honest with you. I also think, and look, and I said this too in February, my gut was still that Saquon was going to be back because I did not think another team was going to show up and offer him the contract the Eagles did. I thought he was going to have to settle for, you know, $10 million a year, $9 million a year. And I thought at that number, the Giants would bring him back. So I didn't think the market would be as hot for him as it was. That was my miscalculation. And I wonder if the Giants thought, both with Barkley and with McKinney, that given those are two positions that the salaries have been fairly stagnant over the past 4 or 5 years. And in fact, I believe those are the 2 lowest positions on the franchise tag list. They have the lowest average, salary in the NFL, that teams wouldn't break the bank for those 2 players. So I think they probably thought, all right, we got a shot to bring these guys back. Like, it's not impossible. And then Xavier McKinney gets offered the second biggest safety contract in the league. I think Jesse Bates is the only one that's bigger than his, right? And then Saquon, I think, has the 3rd richest running back contract after McCaffrey, like, and I don't know who the second guy is, but it's somebody that's a little bit more than him. So, DJ, honest with you, I think the reason that they didn't just say, all right, let's just get whatever we can and move on, they thought there was a chance that the guys come back if they can get him back at the number that they would be willing to pay them. It just didn't happen to work out that way in free agency. And for the Eagles and the Packers, so far, it's worked out for them.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. I just wish there was some kind of plan or direction, you know what I mean? If we're going to do a rebuild, you know what I mean? Like, do a true rebuild. It seems like we're almost in that no man's land of building while you're trying to rebuild. You know what I mean?
Well, DJ, remember this too. Because you lost Saquon and McKinney, right now the Giants are on pace to get a 4th-round compensatory pick.
Exactly what
so
I was
if you
about to say.
trade one of those 2 guys, even just one of those 2 guys, you're not getting any compensatory draft picks. So by not trading those 2 guys, you are getting a likely, again, you never know what the compensatory picks, things can change. But there's a good chance they're going to get a 4th-round compensatory picks because they lost those 2 guys in free agency. So you are going to get something back for them.
And I'm sure that went into their calculations when they were discussing this potential possibility before the trade deadline last year. They knew if both guys went out, and even if they did, sign these big contracts that some people may not have been expecting, that would lead to them getting a comp pick, which is going to be basically the same value, if not more value, than you would get in trading those guys as a rental player at the deadline before they leave in free agency.
Right. Well, I just hope that whatever we're doing, that it works, because it doesn't seem like it's working so far. And I appreciate you guys and everything you do.
Nope. Thank you, DJ. Appreciate the call. We're here for you, man. Look, we hope it works too. I mean, the team was playing better football, guys, up until that Bengals game, and even the Bengals game, the defense played well. The offense didn't, obviously. And then, this game against the Eagles was bad on both sides. So you hope that it's funny. Like, we've had two versions of this team so far this year, right? You've had the team that got at home, that got annihilated by the Vikings and got annihilated by the Eagles. Those two games, this team looked not good. Bad. You do the home games against Dallas and Cincinnati, where the defense was okay. Very good against Cincinnati, okay against Dallas. And the offense against Dallas moved the ball, but they had to settle for field goals. And against the Bengals, just didn't do it. Then you have the road team that won in Seattle, was very competitive against Washington, if not for either the kicker issue. Again, I think that's less of a big deal, but the drop passes were a big deal in that game. And then the other road game against, who am I missing there? What other road? Cleveland, thank you, where they blew out the Browns. So you've had a couple different versions of this team. You're always going to say and lean towards the one that happened most recently, right, which is the Eagles game, and say that,
of course,
that's what this team is. But is it? Maybe. Or maybe it's a team that went in Seattle and won. Like, we'll have to see. There's still 10 games left here, folks. We got a lot of football left to play, and we'll see how the season goes.
Yeah, I mean, as we saw with this team last year, when, the circumstances certainly felt a lot worse, at least, in terms of who was available, the revolving door of injuries, the team showed fight and ended up winning 3 games in the second half of the season to at least very temporarily make the playoffs not seem like such a, far out pipe dream. Obviously they fell short, but heading into that Saints game, as I, said to you last week, they were like 2 games out of the playoffs heading into that Saints game. If they had kept the winning streak going, they potentially could have made a late run. So my point just being that this team is not one to just like give up on the season and wave the white flag and stop trying. Like, they're going out there and trying to win football games every single week, and they will continue to do so until the season is over. Like, they showed that last year. The talent on the roster, even with the few injuries that the Giants are currently dealing with, this is still a more talented roster than it was at this time last year. So who's to say that they can't do the same thing?
Yeah, the math is dire. I mean, it doesn't look good, but you're right. I mean, 10 games left to play, and it's a 3-game difference between you and the team in first place.
Yeah, and I will also, just about the last caller, what he was saying, obviously Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney are great players, but they are now making a lot of money, among the most expensive players at their respective positions.
I think average per year, it's $30 million combined for the two of them, right?
Yeah, and as you said, McKinney's got probably the second highest safety contract, and Saquon is the third highest running back contract. Now, I'm not even remotely trying to compare these players to those two, but the Giants basically filled the 2 vacancies left by those two, at least partly, with Tyler Nubin and Tyrone Tracy.
And Singletary. You can throw Singletary
Of course,
in there too.
Singletary
Yes.
too. But I was just wanted to focus on the rookie part because those are 2 guys that are now under rookie contracts for the next 4 years that in the first 7 games of their careers have at least shown a lot of promise and have shown flashes of being potential building blocks to help take this team to the next level. And those are guys that you now have on rookie contracts for very, very cheap for the next 4 years that had Saquon and McKinney returned, those guys wouldn't be on the team right now. So it just, not saying that those 2 guys are the same level of Saquon and McKinney or will ever get there. They have a lot of work to do to get to those 2 guys because Saquon and McKinney are playing like 2 of the best at their respective positions at the time. But where this team is right now, where the roster is, it is valuable to have these 2 young rookies that look like they could be real building blocks on this very cheap deal for the next 4 years, where they probably wouldn't be here had those 2 guys returned.
Mike in Fort Myers in Florida will wrap us up today. Mike, hope you survived the hurricanes down there. All right, man.
Yes, we have. We were very lucky.
Good.
Hey, I've got friends up north that are telling me that the Giants center is not really up to par with the rest of the centers in the league. That these guys use ratings and say that he's down near the bottom in ratings. I get only snippets of the Giant games. What's your guys' take on that?
I think John Michael Schmitz is playing better than he did as a rookie. I think he's been improved. There are still a couple plays in the game I'm sure he'd like back. He's against bigger guys. I think he can tend to get overpowered from time to time. But I think they're very happy with him mentally. He doesn't make many mental errors. He helps DJ making all the calls to the line and all that stuff. So, work in progress. Is he where they want him to be, I think, at the current time? Probably not. But I still think they have very high hopes.
Yeah,
That's how I put it.
It's been far from perfect, but he's certainly shown some encouraging signs that he is developing and trending in the right direction.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
and
the call.
For what it's worth, Pro Football Focus has credited him with only 1 sack allowed on the season.
Was that the Nakobe Dean sack yesterday?
It was in the Eagles game.
Yeah, it was probably the Nakobe Dean sack
probably that.
yesterday.
Yeah. Now, granted, he's given up 16 pressures, which is obviously a higher number than you'd want. But 1 sack, I mean, again, it's not been great, but it's been better than last year. He's taking steps in the right direction, and as haven't brought this up in a while, but let's just not forget that sometimes offensive linemen take some time to develop and take a few years to reach their ceiling. I mean, Andrew Thomas didn't become Andrew Thomas until year 3 in the NFL. So don't give up on JMS yet. He's shown some signs that he is heading in the right direction. He needs to continue to grow and develop, and then he could potentially end up being the center that the Giants drafted him to be for the future.
And we'll talk more about this on Thursday, obviously, but real quick before you say goodbye. So are you rooting for the Dodgers or the Yankees in the World Series?
Oh, I was hoping we just wouldn't talk about baseball.
Just one question, and then I'll pepper you with more on Thursday. Because the Dodgers obviously limited the Mets, so you have some rancor there, I would imagine. At the same time, if the Yankees go out there and win the World Series, I think your Juan Soto pipe dream might be looking not so good.
I mean, if you tell me that the Yankees winning the World Series mean the Mets have no chance at Juan Soto, then I'm buying a Dodgers hat tonight.
Well, then I think you should probably buy a Dodgers hat. Don't you agree, Pearson? If the Yankees win the World Series, I can't imagine them letting Juan Soto walk.
I don't think so.
I would tend to agree with you. The only thing I would say that maybe makes me think not necessarily the case is that he at least seems to be pretty financially motivated. And at the end of the day, if it comes into a bidding war, I'll take my chances on Steve Cohen outbidding the Yankees.
You are just setting yourself up for disappointment.
No, I'm not saying that he's going to choose the Mets. If the Yankees offer him more money, even if the Yankees offer less money, he could fully end up deciding, I like it in the Bronx, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm fully aware of that. But if it just comes down to who's going to offer more money, I'm sorry, and I know Yankee fans might not want to hear this, but Steve Cohen is going to offer more money.
The Yankees can offer as much money as they want to.
No, they can, 100%. But you guys also have some, I don't want to call them obstacles, but other things to slightly consider. Like, are we going to really give him more money than Aaron Judge, the face of the franchise? Mets don't really have that issue. Again,
I go back to my initial question.
If I had to guess right now, I would think that Juan Soto will re-sign with the Yankees. I'm just not giving up on that dream that he could end up being a Met.
I'll let you think about it. I know Pearson's room for the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, I want Mookie Betts to win World Series because then John Henry looks bad.
Well, Mookie Betts already has one, right, with the Red Sox? How many? 1 or 2?
He has one with the Red Sox, one with the Dodgers.
Oh, he's in the one with the Dodgers, too. Okay.
I will say, taking the Juan Soto part out, I would be rooting for the Yankees for sure if it weren't for some Yankee fans that tend to throw things into my face.
Not me.
Just
I don't
because
do that,
the Yankees are playing great and the Mets lost. When Yankee fans do that to me, it reminds me of why I hated the Yankees growing up.
No, I totally
My
get
hatred
that.
has faded. I don't hate the Yankees anymore, but there are some Yankee fans that love to be just a little obnoxious, and the guy that I typically sit next to up here on Friday afternoons is one of them. So I don't know. I'm going to take the next few days and figure out who I'm rooting for.
Right,
I want to see New York win a championship.
By the end of
the New York Liberty just won on Sunday. I know.
true.
Liberty won. I want to see another one. I'm tired of, no offense, Pearson, I'm tired of Boston being the quote-unquote championship city and all the championships that they've
we'll
won
get to that in a second.
in the last 20 years compared to New York. I'm getting really sick and tired of that narrative. I want New York to win a championship. So
All right, so mentally prepare yourself. End of Thursday's show. I want an answer to this question.
Fine.
I want equivocation. You can even like bring like a hat and like have a hat reveal if you want to put the hat on for the team you're rooting for.
I was expecting this
don't care.
question, but just not today. I thought it'd be
so that's fine. I'll ask you
later in the
Thursday.
week,
I'll ask you
so
Thursday.
I'm
That's
gonna
fine.
need some time to think about it.
So Pearson, you have your banner going up in Beantown tonight.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Al Horford gets his ring.
I just say enjoy while it lasts.
It's going to happen again. What do you mean?
I would just say enjoy your pregame ceremony, and we'll see how the game goes after that.
If they lose, I will be pulling the Kristaps card.
Oh, come on.
I will.
The Knicks are without Landry Shamet.
Oh, please.
Critical part of the roster.
Making a team?
I don't know. I'm just having fun with him. Precious Achiuwa's not playing. Mitchell Robinson's not
Precious
playing.
Achua, big Mets fan. He might be my favorite Knick now.
Oh, he's a big Mets fan,
Big
huh?
Met fan. Grew up in Queens.
I was not. That's right. You know what? I actually saw that quote in the paper the other day. I did see
So
that.
I love Precious now.
Yeah, so no Mitchell, no Precious is the same as no Kristaps. I don't want to hear that excuse out of you over there.
It's not even close.
You guys won the finals without the guy. You're fine.
He was playing.
Oh, please.
Game 1, Kristaps.
Like one leg.
And he went off.
He did hit some threes. That's
How about
true.
Nick Claxton for Dark Horse Defensive Player of the Year? I don't have many
I
things
thought you
to
were
hang-
onto the draft.
Yeah,
I am.
that you
I don't have many things to hang my hat on as a Nets fan at the moment, but let's go 2025 NBA Draft.
That is Big Blue Kickoff live on this, what is it, Tuesday? It seems like it's Friday already. Tuesday afternoon for Matthew Citak. I'm John Schmeelk. It's O'Hara and Madeline tomorrow, though. I might have to sit in for O'Hara for the first 10 minutes because he's supposed to do a player interview and media starts at 12:30. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to try to avoid that if I can, but I might have to step in and do it anyway. That's it. That's all I got for you. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live. O'Hara, Madeline tomorrow at 12:30, hopefully, and we'll see you then.
This message comes from BetterHelp. Can you think of a time when you didn't feel like you could be yourself? Like you were hiding behind a mask? BetterHelp Online Therapy is convenient, flexible, and can help you learn to be your authentic self so you can stop hiding. Because masks should be for Halloween fun, not for your emotions. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.